Okay, so you had your relationships in the past have kind of scared you from moving forward with the relationship in the future. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct, yeah.
In multiple relationships or one specifically?
I would say multiple.
What's the theme or what scares you?
That I tend to hold myself back or cover myself up in fear of intimidating the man or not being the kind of woman that he needs or wants or will continue to love. And so I have dumped myself down in the past so that he will continue to love me, because I dealt with codependency and my biggest fear was losing the love that I had. And now that I'm brave enough to face the person that I am and the person that I want to be and the person that I love being every single day, I can't think about being in another relationship without experiencing fear of that happening again.
Okay. Now, are your parents, would you describe your parents as like pretty passive? Or your dad?
My dad or my mom? Did you say my dad?
Specifically your dad.
So I'm an only child with a very strong relationship with my parents. I'm not sure if I would describe them as passive, but I would describe them as stubborn and dogmatic in their belief systems. And definitely full of expectation.
Cool. So and now am I understanding correctly that when you fully showed up in a relationship as yourself, you thought, for whatever reason, that the guy you were with was intimidated, and it was disconnected, that him being intimidated was disconnecting y'all, so you downplayed your true essence in those relationships so you would not lose the guy? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's definitely true, and I would even take it one step further and say that I have never expressed my full self in a relationship.
Which part, like, of you, or what element of you, or what essence of you have you not ever fully...
My confidence, my creativity, and my my zest for life, my spirit, my, putting myself out there, my strength, my fervor for just passion, just all the things that make me who I am.
Have you listened to or read the Celestine Prophecy by any chance? The Celestine Prophecy, but there's a certain section of the book that talks about the 4 control dramas in relationships, and what I got from it was that there's this claim that everyone can be anyone. They're the dominant archetype. There's like 4 archetypes of control dramas in relationships, and one person usually embodies a dominant one. The 4 on the one end of the scale is intimidator, and an interrogator, and then there's the middle, and then the other end is aloof and a victim. So typically, if one of our parents is a victim, the other person then you would maybe likely become an intimidator. If your parents are very aloof, then you would likely become an interrogator. And I'm wondering if you do have intimidation at the worst end of the spectrum, or like the most intense end of the spectrum, might be someone that literally forces their dominance. So like imagine a the stereotypical drunken abusive dad. That's like the epitome of an intimidator. An interrogator, that's probably, if I had to classify which archetype I've embodied the most, it would be me. Like I can ask someone questions, they'll get them all shaky in their skin, and they won't. I can be like an attorney, like in the most intense time in the court of law in certain conversations. So, and I understand that about myself. And then someone like, I have friends that are aloof. When something weird happens, they're just like, oh, no, it's all a big deal. Like they act like they actually convince themselves they don't know what's happening, like on an unconscious level. And then the victim is just what it sounds like. Everything's against them. They're a victim to everything. They're more like dictated by the conditions of their environment rather than the conditions of their heart. Yeah. So, which one would you say you are, if you had to classify yourself as the main archetype that you've embodied up to this point, what would it be?
Probably the interrogator.
The interrogator. Okay, cool. And do you end up, like, these relationships you were with in the past, would you describe your partner as an aloof or an interrogator?
I would say aloof.
Aloof, that's what I meant, aloof or a victim. So probably, and that's like...
A victim.
Yeah. So these being with aloof, and I can see why that there's a polarity there for you and maybe an attraction and a draw. That's like, according to this idea, you would most likely be with someone that's aloof. And this is not necessarily like, I think it's something to be very aware of for everybody. Like, if there are we drawn to certain types of behavior? Why would we be that way? Who brings that out of us? And I think once there's an awareness to it, then there can be an acceptance, and then there can be action. So I think it's probably good to realize that you may be, you are talking so much. She's a good talker. She's learning to speak. She's actually saying some words.
All about it. I'm all about it.
So I think that you probably activate their aloofness because you're maybe naturally a bit of an interrogator sometimes. And that's cool. That's something to be aware of. That's that.
It's good. Find it, yeah.
I think if you can ever catch yourself in the act of in realizing that, maybe I'm just like following a pattern, and there's even a more loving way for me to be an interrogatory.
Yeah.
That might be helpful, I would say, for one thing. And the other thing is, you might not need to be with an aloof guy. That might have made it easier for you to be, that might have been more natural for you to fall in a relationship with that, but it might be good to be aware of how you, did she spit up a little bit, I think. It might be good to be aware of how you might be activating aloofness or victimhood in other people, not intentionally, and they're not truly a victim to it, but it's just maybe y'all's different behaviors kind of catalyze that for each other.
Right.
Because it's funny, it's kind of how the vibe I got right off the bat. I'm like, I bet, for instance, I bet you could make some men put their tail between their legs.
Well, yeah.
And I can see how that could scare you, especially if I think it's also very natural for a woman to be wanting to be with a man that knows how to stand up and be protective, and because the core biology of it, you're probably going to want to be with someone that can provide for you when you're pregnant. That's the idea. I think that's why females are drawn to a balanced man and a protective man and a man that can provide. All these things show up in what makes a man attractive. Someone that can provide emotionally, financially, because there might be a space in your life, a month, from not 10 months to a year and a half, where it's very important for you to be in a very resting state. I'm not sure what your plans are consciously about having children, but I think it's built into your biology in a way.
Right. Can I ask a question?
Yeah. That was 11 and a half minutes.
Are you serious?
I know. I'm like, yes, a quantum consultation. Here we go.
I said kind of the paralyzing fear, like the fear that stops you from doing anything. You know what I mean? In that sort of situation of like, is there a tactic that you have used in the past to help you kind of take that very first step from that state of paralyzing fear to I can't even move because I'm so scared of this, to just like the tiniest step forward?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because I just recently started a new book called Peak Performance, and it's reminding me of, they're talking about how the top performers, whether they're business performers or athletes, actually the greatest example I heard was if you go to an Olympic race versus a neighborhood marathon or a neighborhood 5K, usually the neighborhood 5Kers, they're like all amped and they're like, it's like a high energy thing. It's a lot of high energy before the race, a lot of nervousness, a lot of shakiness, a lot of people are acting the complete opposite of how the Olympians are acting before the race. because they're in a much more stoic, accepting phase, because they're literally that fear in their body, that paralyzing fear. They're probably equally scared. Both parties are equally scared. But the Olympian knows that he can sit with that, or she can sit with that and channel that for the race. Whereas a weakened warrior that runs every once in a while for fun with their friends, that all of a sudden before the start line, they might not be used to channeling that nervousness. It might feel overwhelming. So it's a practice to realizing that fear and nervousness and anxiety is not something to be scared of, but it's something to be channeled very consciously. Yeah,
that's good. That's really good. Thanks, Daniel and Davina.
Thank you, and no reason to ever be scared of your power. There's plenty of men out there that will love seeing that, and I think that will be probably you'll find yourself with someone like that. Run, guan, guan, guan. Run, guan, guan, guan. Run, guan, guan, guan.